There are a whole bunch of truly deranged and demented responses to the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where a bunch of elementary school students were brutally murdered. Fox News is bending over backwards to come up with solutions that have nothing to do with guns. I got a whole bunch of videos for you here. Buckle up, because this is a wild ride. Here we go. It says, in the last 24 hours since the Uvalde massacre, Fox News has proposed at least 50 solutions, and none of them are gun control. Let's see the list.
I advocate always for an armed security guard.
Armed school safety officer.
There was an armed security guard at this school. There was an armed security guard at this school. Now, maybe in other instances, it could have prevented a shooting. In this one, it didn't. So to bring that up is asinine.
Armed deputy.
Arming teachers?
Potentially arm and prepare and...
Arming teachers. Arming teachers. Do you think a 62-year-old academic signs up to have firearm training and to risk their life on the job? No, you know who does sign up to risk their life on the job? Police officers. Except the Uvalde police officers parked in front of the school as they knew the shooting was going on for 40 minutes to an hour, waiting for a SWAT team to show up, and a Border Patrol agent had to go in and kill the guy. They want teachers to be armed. People who signed up to teach, they want them to learn how to engage in physical combat.
Train teachers and other administrators.
Armed school staffers.
Bring in policemen.
Training the students themselves.
Training the students themselves. Yeah, why weren't these 9-year-olds prepared for combat? Prepared for a war zone? You know, after the kids play Roblox all day and use their scooters in their driveway, they should obviously be trained with heavy weaponry. You know, after they're done melting down and crying because they didn't have their nap that day, that's usually a great time to train them for war. This is... Look, I mean, totally apart from if you're a gun person or not, you're pro-Second Amendment or not, you have to acknowledge this is beyond deranged. I mean, this is the lowest IQ stuff I've ever seen in my entire life.
Retired military, retired law enforcement, we can offer them tax breaks.
If you give law enforcement the opportunity to impose martial law, we can guarantee safety and security.
Securing that perimeter.
Martial law? Martial law. So, now remember, these are the people that pretend like they support freedom the most. And then in the next breath, they're like, what if we did the polar opposite of freedom? What if we did authoritarianism? What if we did martial law? So wait, you want to do authoritarianism to protect the freedom of everybody to have a gun, including absolute psychopaths who clearly were poised to do mass shootings? Think about that for a second. I'm so pro-freedom that I want to take away the freedom in every other relevant area of life except guns. Guns, not even mild regulation, because that's tyranny. But let's do some actual tyranny. Jesus Christ, man. Holy crap.
Kind of providing kind of a ring of steel.
You have the fences, you have the maid administration.
Ring of steel? Better fences? What are you talking about? What are you saying? Like, what do you want to build a moat around schools? With a drawbridge? You want somebody standing there in night gear? What is this? Do these idiots hear themselves?
Building, and then you have wide gaps on either side. The fencing's not very high.
Where the door's locked. Bulletproof glass. All of these shootings have happened at the same time that we see religion and Christian values and Judeo-Christian values declining. I can't, man. Judeo-Christian values?
We live in a country that's over 70% Christian, and we still have mass shootings all the time. Obviously, Christianity isn't the answer. If the country was 100% Christian, we'd still have a lot of shootings. And one of the reasons why is because we have the most guns in the developed world. That's a fact. That's inescapable. If more guns equaled peace, which is what we're told, we would already be the most peaceful country in the world. And we are the least peaceful developed country. We have like 39,000 gun deaths every single year. That includes homicides, suicides, accidents, mass shootings. We blow every other country out of the water. Now, we're not uniquely mentally off. We're just not, despite what anybody wants to tell you. We just have the most weaponry. That's a fact. Now, again, this is quite apart from whether or not you personally support the Second Amendment or not. But that's a fact. Judeo-Christian values. Basically what she's saying is, why don't you just tell the kids that murdering is wrong? Just tell them that killing is wrong. Hey, it's one of the 10 Commandments. It's right there. Yet the problem is that kid who did the shooting, he didn't have a finger wagged in his face enough, and he wasn't told enough, hey, killing people is wrong. Yeah, that'll solve the problem. How do these people tie their shoes in the morning?
Anybody who decides that they want to do something like this should immediately know that attacking a school is a death sentence for them.
Yeah, and the guy was killed, and he did it anyway. He probably knew going into it he might get killed, and he did it anyway. What are you talking about? The idea that these things are solutions are beyond preposterous. They're just trying to deflect the conversation as much as humanly possible. Astonishing.
Afraid of being the school snitch.
We have to stop letting these schools be gun-free zones.
People need to put their phones down.
Yeah, that's the answer. More guns in the school. Because the armed security guard in front wasn't enough. The cops who had all the weaponry in the world, who were there from second number one, that wasn't enough. We need more guns in the school.
And get to know the person next to them.
We have spent billions.
Put your phone down. Put your phone down. Get to know the person next to you. That's your solution. That's your solution to mass shootings.
Millions of dollars on COVID-related measures for our schools. Let's take some of that money and divert it over to hardening these soft targets.
A lot of these private.
What does that even mean? Hardening these soft targets with COVID funds? I don't know what that means. Some really high percentage of the money in the budget for Uvalde, Texas, went to the police department and to them having a SWAT team, and it didn't prevent this.
Schools, they take security way more serious.
Parents, take your children to church.
This anti-police narrative is forcing people not to call police.
Well, you want to know who set up a real anti-police narrative in this instance? The police. When they parked out front for 40 minutes to an hour and kept a perimeter around the school as the shooter was gunning down children inside. They didn't rush the school. They were there from the very beginning, and they did dick. So you know who's responsible for the anti-police narrative in this instance? The police. They made their bed, and now they're going to sleep in it, and the public backlash is 100% justified. They should all be fired, they should all be criminally charged, and the parents of all those kids should get millions and millions of dollars. Don't talk to me about this police worship at the time when the police did the worst possible thing they could have done, when none of them did their job. Not a single one.
Of interlocking doors at the school entrance that are triggered by a tripwire, and it traps the shooter like a rat.
They have to be trolling us. They have to be trolling us. This has to be a troll job. It has to be a troll job. A tripwire that traps the shooter like a rat? What are you, fucking Wile E. Coyote? I can't, guys. I can't. It's been tough the last few days. Now play the world's smallest violin for me. But to get up and talk about this shit is difficult. I don't want to think about this. This is devastating. This is a sign of a society in clear decline. And we got morons like this presented as voices of reason, presented as news people. And look at the stuff they're saying.
God is the answer to that.
There's a moral rot going on that we all need to dig in and try to address.
I vote for...
Okay, how? How do you want to dig in and address the quote-unquote moral rot? How? You care to elaborate on that a little bit? Why don't we say that bad things are bad and good things are good, and you should do the good things and not the bad things? Thank you for your brilliant fucking addition to the conversation. I truly appreciate it. You're helping a lot.
Decreasing social media exposure.
What the fuck does this have to do with... If anything, social media could have helped the situation because this motherfucker was on Facebook just before doing the shooting and was on Instagram just before doing the shooting, basically saying, hey guys, I'm gonna go do a shooting. Now, if we had red flag laws, perhaps you could have prevented it the second he started opening his mouth about that. Decrease social media exposure. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
To start focusing on mental health.
Tell us why you think it's important to pray in a...
The mental health thing drives me crazy, and here's why it drives me crazy. Are a lot of these shooters mentally ill? Absolutely. Does anybody who brings up mental health actually want to address it? Not at all. Not a single one of them are for Medicare for all. Not a single one of them are for universal mental health care. Not a single one of them supports any sort of provision or law to give funding to improve mental health. Not a single one. In fact, the same people who say this will then turn around and rip the idea of mental health medication. So, oh, we're over-reliant on SSRIs and anti-anxiety medications. So then what do you mean, focus on mental? What does that mean, we're going to focus on mental health? Somebody should propose a bill on it and then sit back and watch as every single asshole who pretended to care about mental health then turns around and votes against it. It happens every single time.
Moment like this.
It
Pray.
calls for faith.
Pray! Pray. Yeah, that'll help. That'll do it. Thoughts and prayers will do it. Why don't you just close your eyes and click your heels and say, I really, really hope this doesn't happen again? Impotent freaks we're dealing with here. Every single one of these people are liars and obfuscators and con men. And look, I'm somebody who never, assumes bad intent. And I take people at their word. But looking at how idiotic every single one of these responses are, it's hard to conclude anything except they're just liars and con men, and they're all deflecting from the conversation about obvious solutions around guns.
And prayer.
Why is it that schools aren't protected in the same way that airports?
There are some people who don't want police officers in schools with guns because other people are triggered.
Assault rifle and enhanced body armor.
A notification system to let everybody in the school know what's happening.
Enhanced body armor? Enhanced body armor. What is that? Does that mean you want the kids to wear body armor? Is that what that means? Is that what that means? Notification systems? I don't know. The single point of entry? Okay, we're going to get to more on this in a second. I'm going to save my rant on single point of entry for just a little bit from now. I got more videos.
Point of entry. I don't like talking about this stuff as it happens because I don't think it contributes anything positive.
Parents should be held accountable for raising their children properly.
Ballistic blankets.
We just don't have the resources to get...
Ballistic blankets? Ballistic blankets. Yeah, a shooter comes in, just have the whole class get under one giant blanket. And here's what I know will happen. The shooter will not go lift up that blanket and then shoot underneath it. What the fuck are they saying?
Law enforcement there quickly.
How about an executive order for these mental health facilities?
We have to start rebuilding this country and returning to God.
I arm myself everywhere I legally can.
It's up to you to protect yourself.
Up to you to protect yourself. Yes, the 9-year-old should have been prepared. These people are useless and hopeless. Unbelievable. I got more for you. Here's Ted Cruz.
Schools safer, and one of the things that everyone agreed is don't have all of these unlocked back doors. Have one door into and out of the school, and have that one door armed police officers at that door. If that had happened, if those federal grants had gone to this school, when that psychopath arrived, the armed police officers could have taken him out, and we'd have 19 children and 2 teachers still alive.
So his answer is single point of entry. Single point of entry. Why don't you go ahead and talk to the fire department about that, Ted Cruz? That's a massive hazard in its own respect. Single point of entry. And again, the idea like, oh, well, you should just have the armed guards there. They did. They did. Well, the cops should be... The cops were there and sat there for 40 minutes to an hour as this psychopath was massacring people inside a classroom.
If I can, I just come back to this, Laura. This problem is a much larger problem than the infrastructure, the gun issue, the mental health issue. This is and all those are important. But at the end of the day, Laura, we are in a sick society where we are at each other's throats all the time. He showed it today. Everywhere you look, we are just, whether it's on the internet, whether it's in any walk of life. People are just at each other every day, and we have to ask ourselves who we are. And I believe we're a nation of godly people, and godly people need to pray for this family.
Changes.
And people, we got to make changes.
Got to make changes.
2 Chronicles 7:14, Laura, everyone should read tonight. Go to the middle of the Bible, turn right. 2 Chronicles 7:14. Christians have to pray for God to heal our land. And we have to take a stand. If there are some people in this country who are not believers, that's fine. I respect their right not to believe. But for those of us who are Christians, we need to take hold of our country, and we do that through prayer. You cannot change the culture of a country without changing the character of the people, and you just cannot change character without changing a heart, and you can't do that without turning to God. Thank you, Laura.
All right.
A lot of real deep stuff there. Just look at this fucking kumbaya bullshit. As an entire classroom of babies were gunned down. Thanks, bro. Change our character. Turn to God. Read the Bible. Pray. Fucking unbelievable. Too stupid to even merit comment. Then Tucker chimes in. Look, Tucker's on it. Look at this. Brilliant take from him.
Oh, so the lockdowns dramatically increase the incidence of mental illness among young people, and in 10 days we've seen 2 mass shootings by mentally ill young people. Could there be a connection? Now
No. No, because that requires fucking evidence, Tucker. By the way, if there wasn't a lockdown, I'm pretty sure COVID in and of itself would have increased mental illness among the population. But would Tucker have done that? So, maybe this is linked to COVID. Which, by the way, would have been equally speculative. It would have been equally speculative. Again, anything to deflect from the conversation about guns. Anything. Anything. Oh, let's blame the lockdown. Oh, would you look at that? It turns out the reason for the shooting is this pet political issue of mine that I've been harping away on for an extended period of time before the shooting even happened.
that's not finger pointing. It's not to blame.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Fauci for yesterday's shooting. We're not that low. We're not Joe Biden. But if people are becoming mentally ill because they're disconnected from others, what can we do to connect them to others and thereby reduce the incidence of mental illness? That's a real conversation. Is there a more important one?
There you go. That's the lockdown's fault. Yeah, that's it. All right, so there you have it. One deranged take after another. We have literally over 50 of them, so choose the worst.